Hello, everybody. This is Zane Price. I'm here to talk about the aftermath of the U.S. men's national team March friendlies, looking ahead a bit into the June friendlies as well as CONCACAF Nations. So this was the lineup that we rolled out against Ecuador to start out the two friendlies campaign. I thought this was a very good-looking starting 11. There was only a few changes that I think I would have made. But even then, I don't think you can complain too much. Really, the one thing or the few things that we learned is, Tyler Adams is a premier player for this team, and we have to use him at his fullest capability. And especially when Ecuador sat into that really ridiculous low block, when he was kind of commanding the midfield at right back, that was really, really important. There still is a bit. I have a bit of a question mark as to how that relationship among Adams and Long kind of works. They exploited that a few times, Ecuador, but I thought he was the man of the match. Pulisic, starting at that 10, his frame was really concerning. I think his strength wasn't always there, and that wasn't helped that McKennie wasn't having the cleanest of nights. And what ended up happening was Pulisic was kind of rolling out towards this area a little bit more, and Trapp would have to hit him there, forcing Ariola a little bit more inside, playing closer to Zardes, which is something that he's just not. I don't want to say he's not capable of doing it, but it's not ideal for Ariola. A lot of people want him out on the wing. Pulisic, I don't know if I completely agree with that, against, say, a team like Chile, and I'll talk about that in a second. But against a low-block team like Ecuador, I think that really could have helped. It could have helped get more crosses in. We saw that moment with Antonio Valencia when he beats him on ball. Very impressive stuff. We need to see a little bit more of that. Brooks, I want to mention just really quick, with Trapp in the game, Trapp was kind of the point man on offense, and I think late in the second half, that was what I was a little annoyed with more than anything, was that Brooks really didn't turn into that point man, didn't turn into kind of like the pass distributor that I thought he was going to be. Kind of left that to Trapp, and then once Trapp left, then Bradley kind of took over that role a little. Again, these are the subs. It was kind of a tough situation for Bradley to come into, replacing straight on a holding midfielder, the only holding midfielder on the team is difficult. I don't think Bradley did a great job. I actually thought Trapp was playing really, really good to that point. Could have been more clinical. McKennie is the obvious kind of guy on that. He didn't have the greatest of games. I do wish him a healthy recovery. I think that's going to really hurt Schalke's season. That was a gruesome injury that he took. In terms of, it was a 1-0 win. The Zardes goal kind of spoke for itself. Maybe it was the most jazzy Zardes thing I've ever seen in my entire life, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. It still counts as a goal in the box score. In terms of pluses, I already said that Adams was my man of the match. I thought Trapp was very good. I thought Long was very, very good. Him and Brooks, that's a pairing. That's probably the best center back pairing that we've had really since 2014. I think they complement each other really, really well, especially against these lower CONCACAF sides that are really just going to try and pressure us. Lon has the speed to kind of recover, and Brooks can then out-physical, out-aerial duel them. I thought Ariola was okay. Morris had a tough time on right wing. Zardes was okay in tight areas. Ream, we'll talk about Ream a bit more in a second, but overall, this was... it was a bit of a boring game it turned into at times. First 30 minutes of this game was really, really promising stuff, though. So if you want to take away anything from that, if you haven't seen this game and want to see what it was all about, the first 30 minutes, even if you just stop at when Morris got called for offsides and Ariola slammed it in after missing one earlier, that was a really good indicator. That first 30, 35-ish minutes of play was and then the Chile game. The Chile game starts out with a bang. Zardes does a really good job getting into Pulisic. Pulisic, in that tight corridor, does really, really well to tip it over and finish. Best moment of being a men's national team fan of the year. Overall, the one thing that was answered with these March friendlies was how are we going to deal with pressure, and how are we going to deal with pressure is apparently playing out of the back, which is something that the top teams, not only at the club level, but also the international level do. But when you're doing it, say, with Sean Johnson and John Brooks, and even Long to an extent, Like, that's reasonable. And Adams when you're at right back. To try and do it with Tim Ream, Omar Gonzalez, and Ethan Horvath, to try and, for the first time in a system, pass out of the back like that, it made me wince more than a few times. I was very nervous watching this game. None of them did anything terribly awful. Ream in both games had two kind of gut-wrenching passes that you were like, oh my gosh, Tim, why'd you do that? But overall, the game got a lot better once Will Trapp was brought in. Here are your subs. Right there, Trapp comes in, he sits right next to Bradley, kind of puts Roldan out of position, and he didn't have as much as an impact. I actually thought Roldan played really well up until that point when Trapp came in. And when Trapp comes in, I thought he was a real standout in both these games for two different reasons. He was a really good distributor against Ecuador, and then he really showed up and was really positive against Chile. When Pulisic has to come out, and I think it was like between the 30th and 40th minute, really killed the entire attack. We still were able to craft some things together, but nothing to the extent of the first around 10 minutes of the game. First 10 minutes of the game, Zardes was playing really well as well. The main question that we had coming into this March roster, these March friendlies, it was more, how do the European players kind of integrate into the system, and then how do the January standouts do against higher level competition? And I guess that we can answer that question for each player. So Pulisic has one goal, but he gets taken out injured in both games. I think it's like a 3 or 4 week injury for him. He's still the most important player in the team. He's the only guy that can really get the offense going from a wide area or even in the middle of the field. I'm a little worried about who is in the pipeline that's gonna come and add on to that. I mean, in U20 news, Conrad De La Fuente looked really good in the moments that I saw with him. Andrew Carlton, same thing. I'm a little worried about the winger depth and about the attacking depth because Pulisic, his frame doesn't do him any favors. He's not the strongest of dudes at this point in his career. He's susceptible to getting injured like that. I thought Adams was, again, he was the man of the match. Against these CONCACAF teams, I want to see him at right back, but against, these more World Cup caliber teams, I want to see him where Roldan is, because Roldan kind of fit down, dropped along Bradley, and that would have been a really helpful presence, having Tyler Adams there. Then that question begs, where does Weston McKennie play in that system then? Do we put McKennie on the bench? I don't know. That's a whole can of worms. Mainly what I want to say is Tyler Adams is great. I hope he continues to play well at Leipzig. McKennie looked out of sorts, maybe more sloppy than anything. I think his positioning was okay. He was getting himself into good areas. Injured. I hope he's back for a Gold Cup. I'm not too optimistic he will be brought back for a Gold Cup. We saw Yedlin come in at right wing and then play and captain the side against Chile at right back. I thought he looked comfortable in both positions for what it's worth. I thought the few minutes that we saw of him over on the right side where Morris was playing, the things he did in the few minutes was a lot better than what I saw from Morris. And I thought he was okay against Chile. They didn't really exploit his side all too much. They were going at Ream a bit more. John Brooks, again, seamlessly paired with Aaron Law. I think those two are going to be together for a pretty long time. Then Miazga, he plays with Omar Gonzalez, which isn't the easiest pairing. And again, he was passing out of the back. It's not something that he's ideally wanting to do over and over again. But his positioning, I thought, was really good. He had a few blocks in the game. His aerial dominance is near elite, and I think just finishing off the season with Reading in the championship is really going to help his odds going further. Ethan Horvath, didn't really get to see the shot stopping Ethan Horvath, which I guess is a bit more testament to our defense because he didn't have to make all too many saves against the Chile side that were threatening at times. He still has to work on his ball handling with his feet. That's only going to come with time, so playing time with Bruges and playing time with the men's national team I think will help him. Tim Ream was not ideal at left back, and that kind of really was... he really didn't fold in all that much. And I know we talked about from that first friendly against Panama, Daniel Lovitz comes in, and he comes from left back and folds in with your two center backs. I didn't see a whole lot of that. Against Ecuador, Ream was really playing up
almost to where Adams was. He was almost like another holding midfielder. Whereas, and then in this game, he was kind of pinned back a little bit more. Yedlin was a little more adventurous, just given their styles of play. I was not really impressed by Ream. I think the guy, if you weren't pleased with Ream either, and if you're looking for a guy that's kind of coming up the pipe that can take that slot, is Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's been playing a little bit. He's been playing basically the exact same role for Swansea, and he's been doing well. I think he had a pretty good U23 camp from what I saw. Next we have, or finally I guess, from the guys not playing in MLS, we had Omar Gonzalez. I think it's okay to get center back depth in. I'm not sure if he did enough to kind of put his name above, like say if Brooks, knock on wood, if Brooks and Lawn aren't able to go and we have to call up Miazga and we have to call in Cam Carter-Vickers, I'm not sure if Gonzalez is a name that I want to see over a guy like maybe Austin Trusty or Miles Robinson, but I think he's definitely going to be an option. He just didn't, he was Omar Gonzalez. We knew what Omar Gonzalez was coming in to, or we knew what Omar Gonzalez was coming into these friendlies, and then we tried to maybe manipulate ourselves a little to see, maybe Berhalter does something extra with him, changes his game up a little. He didn't have a bad game against Chile. I think he was probably the least impactful guy in the field, and he was caught flat-footed, and him and Ream, they didn't do themselves any favors for being the two veterans brought in. I think they're susceptible to be. So that was the European talent. As for the MLS guys, most of whom we saw in January, I think there was a lot of standouts. The main one being Aaron Lawn. I think he's the second best center back in this pool. I think you can pair him either with Brooks or Miazga and get a really good center back pairing. He does a lot right. I think he's a good strength guy. He's a good speed guy. I think his positioning is good. He's not amazing at anything, but we have Miazga, who's an aerial dominance, and you have Brooks, who's a passing dominance. Pairing him with Lawn could be really ideal. I'm not sure he can play this left back Ream role. A lot of people are having Lawn, Brooks, Miazga kind of mocked up as their starting 11. I'm still waiting to see from that. I actually would rather just have Lawn here to cover for Adams if he's getting up so much. Regardless, obviously, Aaron Lawn was great. Sean Johnson, I would have loved to see him in this Chile game because I don't even think he registered a save against Ecuador, and he didn't have to do much, especially when we were passing out of the back so much. I just wanted to see if the difference between Sean Johnson and Ethan Horvath was discernible. We didn't get to see that. Nick Lima did not play right back. He coined his own position, titled the inverted right back. Adams played it 100% better than I think Lima could have. And Yedlin, when we were pushed back up against that Chile high press, I thought him as a natural right back is and will be just better than Lima. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Lima is left off of the Gold Cup roster. Then we have Daniel Lovitz, who came in off the bench in the Chile game. Kind of came in as a left wing back. I honestly would rather see him than Ream at this left back position again. I couldn't really get a read on Lovitz. I don't think left wing back is something that we're going to see from him consistently. If we are going to play left wing back more often than I thought we would, I'd like to see Anthony Robinson, but he's coming back from injury. I wouldn't be shocked if Lovitz is on this Gold Cup roster either. Bradley, I thought he was amazing in the Chile game. Great passing. I thought his positioning was good, and I thought his movement was really good for a guy of his age playing that spot. I think anybody who doesn't think Bradley is part of the future of this team is lying to themselves, and I know it's kind of a tough lie to, kind of convince yourself that, hey, like,